Every year developers release too many games for us to enjoy. Some of them are good, and some of them are bad. Here are 10 best game of 2017. Before we get into the list, I want you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification. Number 10 on our list is Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. The Lost Legacy is an action-adventure game played from a third-person perspective, with platform game element. Players use firearms, melee combat, and stealth to defend against the hostile enemies. Players control a character named Chloe Fraser, a treasure hunter who is physically adept and is able to jump, swim, swing and perform other acrobatic actions in combat. Players can use long-ranged weapons, such as rifles and shotguns, and short-barreled guns such as pistols and revolvers. Maps featured in-game are larger than previous entries in franchise. The game received generally favorable reviews. Number 9 is Automata, which is an action role-playing game in which players take the role of combat androids from the ORA units across an open-world environment. In addition to standard navigation on foot, using a special item allows the player to summon a wild animal to ride, and in some scenarios pilot a flying mech to fight enemies. Combat is action-based, with the player fighting enemies in real time in a variety of in-game environments. During battle, the player can use light attacks which are fast, but weak, and heavy attacks those are slow and more powerful. The player is also assisted by a pod, a flying robot assistant which launches customizable ranged attacks varying from simple gunfire to heavy-hitting hammer attacks. The player is able to access 4 different weapon types in battle. Nier Automata was nominated for Best Storytelling and PlayStation Game of the Year at the 35th Annual Golden Joystick Awards, while at the Game Awards 2017, the game won the award for Best Score Music and was nominated for Best Narrative and Best Role-Playing Game. Number 8 is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which is a player versus player action game in which up to 100 players fight in a battle royale. Players can choose to enter the match solo or with a small team of up to 4 people. In either case, the last person or team left alive wins the match. Each match starts with players parachuting from a plane onto a map area approximately 8 by 8 km in size. The plane's flight path across the map varies with each round, requiring players to quickly determine the best time to eject and parachute to the ground. Players start with no gear beyond customized clothing selections which do not affect gameplay. While still in early access, Battlegrounds won the Best Multiplayer Game and was also nominated for the categories Game of the Year and Best Ongoing Game at the Game Awards 2017. The game's nomination for Game of the Year created some debate, being the first early access title to be named for one of the top industry awards. Also, about a month before it was released, the game won Best Multiplayer Game and PC Game of the Year at the 35th Golden Joystick Awards, whereas its other nominations were for Studio of the Year and Ultimate Game of the Year. Number 7 is Destiny 2, which is an online multiplayer first-person shooter video game. It is the sequel to 2014's Destiny and its subsequent expansions. Set in a mythical science fiction world, the game features a multiplayer shared world environment with element of role-playing games. Players assume the role of a guardian, protector of Earth's last safe city as they wield a power called Light to protect the lost city from different alien races. The player sets out on a journey to regain their light and find a way to defeat Gaul and his Red Legion army and take back the lost city. Destiny 2 received generally favorable reviews. It was nominated for awards such as Best Art Direction, Best Score Music, Best Audio Design, Best Ongoing Game, Best Action Game, and Best Multiplayer. Number 6 is Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, which is a survival horror video game developed and published by Capcom. It is the 11th main entry and 24th entry overall in the Resident Evil franchise. It is the first main series installment to be played from a first-person perspective. The story follows civilian named Ethan Winters as he searches for his wife Maya, which leads him to a derelict plantation inhabited by the Baker family. Ethan makes use of weapons and tools in the fight against the Baker family and the Molded, a humanoid form of bacteria. The game received generally favorable reviews according to Metacritic. Number 5 is Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, which is an action-adventure shooter game played from a first-person perspective. The game is the 8th main entry in the Wolfenstein series and the sequel to 2014's Wolfenstein: The New Order, set in an alternate history 1961 following the Nazi victory of the Second World War. The story follows war veteran William B.J. Blazkowicz and his efforts to fight against the Nazi regime in America. To progress through the story, players battle enemies throughout levels. The game utilizes a health system in which players' health is divided into separate sections that regenerate. If an entire section is lost, players must use a health pack to replenish the missing health. Players use melee attacks, firearms, and explosives to fight enemies, and may run, jump, and occasionally swim to navigate through the locations. Melee attacks can be used to silently take down enemies without being detected. Alternatively, players can ambush enemies, which often results in an intense firefight between the two parties. Enemy commanders can call for reinforcements several times. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus was released to generally favorable reviews. The game was nominated for Best Gaming Performance and Studio of the Year at the 35th Annual Golden Joystick Awards, though it lost both of them to Ashley Birch in Horizon Zero Dawn and Nintendo EPD at the Game Awards 2017. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus won the award for Best Action Game, whereas its other nominations were for Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, and Best Performance. Number 4 is Super Mario Odyssey, which is a 3D platform adventure video game developed and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo Switch. An installment in the Super Mario series, the story follows Mario and Cappy, a spirit that possesses Mario's hat, and allows him to take control of other characters and objects, as they set on a journey across various worlds, to save Princess Peach from his nemesis Bowser, who plans to marry her. In contrast to the linear gameplay of prior entries, the game returns to the primarily open-ended, exploration-based gameplay previously featured in Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine. Upon release, Super Mario Odyssey received universal acclaim from critics. Number 3 on our list is Assassin's Creed Origins. Origins is an action-adventure stealth game played from a third-person perspective. Players complete quests, linear scenarios with set objectives, to progress through the story, earn experience points, and acquire new skills. Outside of quests, the player can freely roam the open world environment on foot, horseback, camelback or boat to explore locations, complete optional side quests, and unlock weapons and equipment. The player takes on the role of a mage named Bayek and his wife Ea, as they work to protect the people of the Ptolemaic kingdom during a time of widespread upheaval. Origins received positive reviews from critics, who praised the story, characters, immersive world of Egypt and the visuals, while criticizing some of the pacing and technical issues. The game has been lauded as either the best or one of the best installments. Number 2 is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, which is an action-adventure game developed and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo Switch and Wii U video game consoles. The game is a part of the Legend of Zelda series, and follows amnesiac protagonist Link, who awakens from 100-year slumber to a mysterious voice that guides him to defeat Calamity Ganon, before he can destroy the Kingdom of Hyrule. Gameplay introduced new mechanics and designs, including featuring an open-world environment, a detailed physics engine, high-definition visuals, and voice acting. Breath of the Wild received universal acclaim from critics, who deemed it to be one of the greatest video games of all time, and was the recipient of numerous Game of the Year awards, among others. Number 1 is Horizon Zero Dawn, which is an action role-playing game played from a third-person perspective. Players take control of Aloy, a hunter and archer, as she ventures through a post-apocalyptic land ruled by robotic creatures known simply as machines. Aloy can kill enemies in a variety of ways, such as by setting traps like tripwires, using the tripcaster, shooting them with arrows, using explosives, and using a spear. Machine components, including electricity and the metal they are composed of, are vital to Aloy's survival, and she can loot their corpses to find useful resources for crafting. The story is set in the 31st century, in a world where humans have regressed to primitive tribal societies as a result of some unknown calamity. Their technologically advanced predecessors are vaguely remembered as the old ones. Large robotic creatures known merely as machines now dominate the earth. For the most part, they peacefully coexist with humans, who occasionally hunt them for parts. However, a phenomenon known as the derangement has caused machines to become more aggressive towards humans, and larger and deadlier machines have begun to appear. Horizon Zero Dawn received generally favorable reviews from critics,